John, Greg and Richard, right here on Talking Red.
It's just 86 days since Nottingham Forest lost 1-0 at home to Chelsea to finish 7th in the Premier League and qualify for the UEFA Conference League. Since then, we've signed 2 more Brazilians, with one going the other way, swapped one speedy winger for a technically better one, shipped out a load of fringe players for far more money than they were probably worth, handed new deals to both our fullbacks, locked Morgan Gibbs-White in a dark room for a week, had the Spurs fan base on strings, made Daniel Levy look like Krusty the Clown on a bad day, sent letters to UEFA reminding them that it is we, Nottingham Forest, who actually run football. We've had Steve Parish change his Twitter handle to Desperate Dan. We failed to score more than 1 goal in 7 pre-season games, been linked with more players than you'd find on an American football squad, witnessed daily fan meltdowns on social media due to having not signed any of them, got into bed with John Textor, developed a fake rivalry with Crystal Palace because, of course, we're to blame for everything. We've doubled Morgan's money, been taken to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, and have now officially been elevated into the Europa League. But apart from that, it's been pretty quiet. And it all starts for real again on Sunday as Forest begin the 2025-2026 Premier League campaign at home to Brentford. How will it go? What sort of season we're going to have? Can we go anywhere near to repeating the highs of last year? Who's going to stand out and who will surprise us? Well, Danscape is here and Raf is here. And of course, Richard is here as well with me, Greg Oram, to give you our thoughts and opinions on what may lie ahead. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the Talking Reds 2025-2026 predictions episode.
Controls it, and now Hudson-Odoi takes over. Top of the D, Hudson-Odoi right for a shot. 2-0 Forest. Callum Hudson-Odoi. Steady's found Gibbs-White inside right channel. He finds this one will count. Milenkovic scores again. Forward to Elanga forward for Wood. Inside left channel, great chance. Forest ahead. It's Chris Wood. The first time. Wood, left hand side, rolls it into Gibbs-White. Gibbs-White left. Oh! Nudge. Lovely finish again. Everton bulldozed his way through challenge. Oh! The shot. Oh my top corner from the edge of the penalty area. Magnificent save from Maxwell. That is a brilliant save.
You know, we've got that bad a name that riots probably might not be that far off it with visits to various clubs this season. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. But listen, it is now upon us. And finally, we're going to get more Colin Frey commentary so I can chop up new goals and hear Steve Hodge shouting, yes, 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 again and again and again. All right, we've got loads to get through. So Richard's with us, Danscape's with us, and Raf's with us. We've all been kind of coming together. We've been into the Talking Reds WhatsApp group where a lot of our regular contributors have had a chance to give us their views and thoughts on how these fixtures might go. You'll remember last year when we did this, we went through each fixture game by game and assigned points, wins, draws, or whatever it was. And it took a bit of time, and we thank you for sticking with us. We tried to refine it this year. So we sent a form out to the likes of Andrew Cove and Ross Taylor and Bruce Johnston, Alan Merriweather, I think, chipped in as well, and Paul Morley and Steve Bassamuch, Holly from the Forest Women fan cast as well, and anyone else I've forgotten, I apologise, but quite a few people had a chance to give us their opinion on how these points might be divvied up through the season. So we're going to go through each month of the season now, guys. We're going to have a chat about a few of the fixtures, and then the points that we are assigning each month is the average score across everybody's feedback. So everybody had a chance to put 3 points for a win, or football. 1 point for a draw, and of course, none for a defeat on the form that we asked them to fill out. So we're going to get right into it. I haven't even spoken to these guys yet because I'm really conscious of time. But these guys are going to have plenty of opportunity to chip in with their thoughts, and we're going to get some debate and some opinion on screen. So let's kick it off straight away. It starts on Sunday as we go into the new Premier League against Brentford. Just quickly before I do that, a reminder that last year we predicted in that episode we did that we would get the sum total of 47 points. Now, 47 points over the 5 previous seasons on average would have landed you a 12th place finish. And we were jumping for joy at a 12th place finish, or the idea of that this time a year ago. Reds fans, you know full well that we did so much better. We ended up on 65 points and we ended up in 7th place in the Premier League. And it could have been better, probably should have been better. It was an astonishing season. So can we do better? Will our points tally be as good as last season, or is it going to possibly drop off now that we've got Europa League football to add into the mix as well? So there on screen are the fixtures for August. I think I might have said September a minute ago, getting carried away. We start in August, of course, on Sunday at home to Brentford. So, Richard Spray, I'm going to come to you first. So we got 3 fixtures to think about in this. We're not going to go through every game, but we will start with the opening fixture. What do you think is going to happen? I know we're going to do our Brentford preview properly on Friday, but is this a win for the Reds? Are we finally going to score a goal?
I think we are going to score a goal, and I think it's going to be one of those classic sort of throwbacks to last season of 1-0, where we just sort of like it feels like a bit of a stalemate for a bit. There's not necessarily getting all the chances in, getting those chances converted, but there's going to be a nice goal at a key point in the match, and that's going to put us over the edge. So for me, I looked at it as a win. Well, look, they're a bit damaged right now too with having a new manager and losing key players and so on and so forth. And we don't know what's going to happen with Wissa, but I doubt he's going anywhere before Saturday, but we'll see.
Well, look, you say that. Breaking news this morning. I've been listening here in Poland.
Oh, really?
Alexander Isak has effectively formalised his strike action at Newcastle. We said he's never going to play for them again. It's all going crazy on TalkSport because they love to make a mountain out of a molehill. And when it's a mountain to make a mountain out of, it's even bigger. So the talk is now that they will move for Wissa Danscape before the weekend to try and get him over the line. That's going to do us a favour, isn't it, if that's the case?
Yeah, massively. He's been a top striker for a couple of seasons, so it's one less threat for them. Brentford has still got some good players. I know they've lost a couple. I think you've got to be a little bit wary that they've still got some players that they brought in like last season or season before that haven't performed yet, but will be absolutely chomping at the bit to kind of come in and replace these guys that have left. So I think you've always got to be wary about just sort of the fact that we don't know them inside out because it's not our team that we follow. So they've still got their defense together and they've still got a very good defense. So I think it's going to be a tough one, but I do think we win it probably late on.
Where are you, Raf, with Brentford? We know that they've been a problematic team for Nottingham Forest, not just whilst we've been back in the Premier League, but also when we were playing against them in the Championship. They've had an upheaval, like Dan said. Your thoughts on this? Is it 3 points for the Reds?
I think I put it down as 3 just because it's the first fixture. It's at home. It'll be absolutely raucous. And I think that might just about give us the edge. Dan makes a very good point. It's all the upheaval, but actually the defense hasn't been up. That's the same unit as last season. So that hasn't massively changed. What kind of points me towards potentially a 0-0? So attackingly, they have been diminished slightly. With Isak, he's waiting for Liverpool to definitively say we are not going to buy you, and then he might actually re-enter the Newcastle fold. But I don't think that is going to happen this week. And if he does come back, he hasn't trained with anyone. I do think Wissa's going is a Callum Wilson replacement. It's not an Isak replacement. So he's going over anyway, but the expediting of that is really key because otherwise it's Elanga's best mate, Osulu, who's playing. So I think that even though they've got Thiago and I had this point all lined up, I've now forgotten the name of the other person who's come in, who is really good, who I might put in my FPL team. Sharda, that's the one. Yeah. So those two really were not fit and really not firing. Sharda came online. So they do have some firepower. For me, this is either 0-0 or we nick a goal, I think is probably where we are. But given the pre-season form, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being a 0-0.
Yeah, I said on the episode we did on the Sunday night with Bruce and with Steve Battlematch that you can bet your bottom dollar that 0-0 is got odds on at the bookies because the way we've been playing. I do feel that another level is on offer when it comes to it's the first Premier League game of the season. Yeah. It's at home. It's the real deal. It's all happening. I think we're going to win this game. And I'm not trying to be too optimistic. I'm trying to be as balanced as I possibly can be. But I think a win at home against Brentford gets us off and running in the right way. And I think the players will be really seriously focused on repaying the fans a little bit now. The season started. And I know that the end of last season wasn't great. And had we won one of those last 4 or 5 games, we would be playing Champions League football. So it did all kind of like come undone at the seams a little bit. Brand new season, brand new focus. The slate has been wiped clean. So I think we'll kind of agreed that Brentford is kind of moving towards it being a win. There's still that chance of it being a draw. I'm not going to, as I said, go through every single fixture on the calendar, but I think we also do now need to look at the fixture that's coming up after Brentford, Danscape. Crystal Palace away at Selhurst Park. Now, I had a chance to go to this, but I'm not going to be back from my trip in time, which is a damn shame because I would have loved to have rocked up to Crystal Palace. I mean, that's going to be some atmosphere, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, it's going to be a memorable one, I think. That's what I was looking forward to about the season actually getting going, as you get all these little moments and things that happen along the way that you can't expect, and the songs that come out of nowhere, like last year it was the Arnie Slot song and all that sort of stuff. This kind of game is one that can generate those moments that'll live through the season for us. I think it'll be a horrible game in terms of, it's tough going there anyway, but obviously they will probably be even more fired up for it than usual. So I think on that one, I've probably predicted a draw if I remember rightly, which is sort of standard for Palace away. But yeah, I think it's one that loads of fans are going to be looking forward to. I'm sure there'll be some amusing moments on it as well, and it'll sort of fire the season off, I think, in quite a dramatic way.
What about you, Raf? And how much will this new bitter rivalry between the fans come into play against Palace?
I really hope this isn't turning into a bitter rivalry because I really like Palace as a club, actually. I like what they stand for and how they've kind of gone about what they do. There are a few keyboard idiots on X at the moment who just seem to be stoking things up. And I will because I took a stand and actually done something about it. I think Kaveh Solokol of Sky is a disgrace. Is an absolute disgrace. You're right. No, he's an absolute disgrace for what his job is supposed to be and what he actually has done. Yeah. And what he is doing is actually inciting animosity between the fans where really there isn't actually that much, and saying things as fact when he hasn't got any actual fact to back it up. And it's causing a real issue between the fan bases more than if he had just said nothing and been impartial, just actually said the facts. So I, from that perspective, I think there's increased needle from when I did my prediction just on the way things dropped yesterday. And they continued the pot to be stirred, I would say. I had this down as a draw. It's going to be really tough going there. But I had the impression that we didn't do very well against Palace. But actually looking at the number of points we've got against Palace, we don't actually do too badly against them compared to my perception. I had this down as a draw. Yeah. I had it down as a draw, but I don't think we'll win it. We might nick a draw.
Okay. First away game of the season then, Richard. And it is a tasty one, as I've just said. Crystal Palace. A couple of seasons ago, Murillo nearly announced himself. And in fact, he did announce himself. He had that mazy run that didn't go in. And he's been doing a lovely piece in The Athletic where he talks about that wonder goal he feels is definitely coming. Let's hope so. And last season, we got the 1-1 draw down there when Murillo did score, I think, his second goal of the season that kind of shimmied in off someone. So what do you reckon? Win, lose or draw?
Yeah, it's got to go down as a draw, even though I think there's just, as we've all talked about just now, there's a lot of theater around this, and I think they're clearly motivated now. I mean, it is a glorified friendly in the Community Shield / Charity Shield, as you like to call it, right, Greg? But ultimately they look like a team ready to want to compete. And I think I heard on one of the other podcasts potentially is something about maybe Palace being a bit sneaky in terms of getting into that top 10 of the, being in the top 10 or even competing for Europe, because not only just because of the being competitive in general, because they have good talent on the club, especially in midfield and in the front line, but just the fact that they're ready to kind of show the world that they deserve more than Conference League. So they'll be plenty motivated, but per usual, it just seems to be a bit of a slugfest between the two of us away, especially.
Well, look, Eberechi Eze is now attracting attention from Tottenham again, so they may be trying to go back in for him. I thought Palace looked very good in the second half against Liverpool at Wembley. They are a threat going forwards. Whether they can hang on to Mark Guehi or not this season remains to be seen. I think he'll still be at the club by the time we play them. Maybe, maybe not. I've got this down in my mind right here, right now, probably different to what I put on the sheet. I think maybe we might lose this. Glasner's going to be saying, look, these are the ones that took your place in the Europa. They'll be using that to fire these players up if they needed any more firing up. And I think they're going to come out of the blocks and they're going to be really going for it. And if Forest aren't at the races and in any way are lackluster, then I think that we could really struggle against this lot. I'm hoping for a draw, of course. A win would be great, but I can't remember what I put on my sheet. But here and now in my mind, because it is changing all the time, I'm thinking we might struggle. We might pick up a defeat here. But, every day is like a changing situation with different players coming in. And we know James McAtee is on the edge of joining Forest as we speak. All right. Just quickly on West Ham at home. It's the first game I'm going to get to this season as I've just come back from my trip. So I'll be coming up with Orlando, and I know Raf the Random Pundit will be there as well. And so if anyone else is around for the West Ham game, we will be in the Trent Navigation beforehand. So hopefully we can see you. I'm going to go straight to the points total for this month. We've given, as a group, on average, that Forest will pick up 7 points. We think it's going to be a win, draw, win, 7 points out of a possible 9 to go onto the board, onto the tally. So that's how we think August is going to fare. All right, I'm going to move us on to September. Before I do that, I want to say hello to Steve. He says, morning, guys. Let's hope yesterday's news means we can kick-start the signings. Tim Shipman is with us as well. He says he hopes everyone's doing well. Leo Cook, morning, Europa League Reds. Brucey in Texas is giving us a good morning as well, as is that Garibaldi nerd. If you are with us in the comments, please do drop in what you think about the season and how you think it's going to turn out in terms of games against particular teams, what kind of points you think we might get, and so on and so on and so on. Thank you, Leo. He loved the intro. Well, I'm doing my best here on my laptop. It's not so easy to put it together as it is back home in Blighty. We asked also the guys in the Talking Reds team to come up with what we consider to be a hot take. Chris Almer at Forest All Over always likes to do a hot take with his podcast partner, Matt. And we want to kind of pick up that mantle a little bit. So we asked everyone, in fact, to come up with a hot take. So Bruce Johnston, his hot take for this season ahead, he says he thinks that Morgan Gibbs-White is going to step up his goals and his assists to 20, which is a big number. So goals and assists combined, if Morgan Gibbs-White can step up his number to 20, as Bruce suggests, has hit his hot take, then I think, that is going to be him going in the right direction and Forest going in the right direction. So there's Bruce's hot take. I'll filter a few more hot takes into the podcast as we proceed. But we're into September. I'm only going to pick out one fixture here for us to talk about, maybe two. And I'll start with you, Raf, for Arsenal away. Tough game away. They're going to be challenging for the title. What are your thoughts on this one?
Nil point.
Okay, let's move on. You can give us more thoughts than that.
Just they're better than us. And they've now reinforced the one area that they don't have. They've actually got a proper 9. They're unbelievably settled as a team. And we've brought in some, but we've changed a tiny bit. We're more stable than most, but we're less stable than Arsenal, to be honest, I'd say probably. And we're going to them. I expect them to be challenging up near the title as well. And we don't have our edge of bringing them to our place, which we then stand a bit more of a chance. So unless we do a smash and grab, but I don't see it that way. I just think they'll be too strong for us.
There's a chance it's the Liverpool game, isn't it? It's like that's at the right time for us to do a kind of a Liverpool smash and grab. That would be amazing. But yeah,
5% chance, Dan. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Ralph's back with his percentage chances again, guys. 5%, love it.
5%
Dan,
chance.
I mean, I'll go with you then, Dan. Could this be the pivotal moment? Are you say last year it was Liverpool around the same time of the season? Do you think we might nick something more than a point?
I mean, I think the way we play, we can nick something against anybody if we can hold. You know, what I mean, if we get off to a good first half an hour in any game where we don't suddenly concede early on and have to chase it, then we can get anything from anyone. Really, it's good to play any team earlier in the season because, and the same applies for us. But any team, takes a little while to really get up to speed. You can still get those abnormal results where teams drop a point. So it's a good time to play them and try and get something there. Obviously, we haven't got anything from them away from home, so it's a perfect time to fit that fixture in and try and deploy our low block smash and grab style early on and give some confidence that we can still perform against those top teams.
We got rolled over a little bit away at the Emirates last season, Richard. Ethan Nwaneri came off the bench and scored his first goal. He's signed a new contract with the Gunners, and he's a proper player in my opinion. Are we on a hiding to nothing at Arsenal, or with the players that we've recruited and the evolving style of play that we think Nino's trying to employ? Can we cause them some problems this time?
Yeah, I think so, especially if we stay compact, his compete, right? If we can do what Nuno says, if we can stay compact and manage that space better than we did last time, because that was that run of games where we just sort of be getting chewed up in the middle of the park. And so I tend to believe you got a better Elliot Anderson this season. Hopefully Morgan's going to be a little bit different, just a little bit more disciplined, because he likes to do his flicks and tricks. You don't want to limit that too much because that also produces greatness. I know Raph shakes his head. But ultimately, I think we'll definitely give him a run, but I think we're going to walk away not with no points, unfortunately, because I think that's their talent differential in the end might supersede that. We'll see. I mean, it'd be nice to, as well, knowing that we've gotten a few games under our belt, was anybody that's coming in kind of at the end of right before this season starts in terms of incomings, that they might get someone integrated at this point, start to see a little bit of momentum in terms of getting accustomed to the structure and how Nuno wants to coach them and manage them. So hopefully that's the case. But it feels like a back three moment for us in this match, and potentially, doing exactly what Dan said, which is to get that one magic moment on the counter. Like we did against Manchester United, for example. We don't have that guy anymore, but something akin to the idea of getting something, that little magic moment that maybe sways things, and then we bed in and make it difficult for them. Because they were struggling to score goals last season, and granted, like Raph said, they have a good 9. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I tend to believe it's a loss, which is okay. We'll take it away.
Yeah, and we go into September off the back of those 3 August fixtures that we've given ourselves 7 points for. Now, if we go into September on 7 points, having 1-2 drawn 1, then the mentality is going to be quite positive. I should imagine it's going to be a tough away game, but the team will be on a high, thinking and hoping that they can beat anybody. So I think we can pick up a point at Arsenal. It's going to be tough. It's one of those games where, and this is probably the most obvious thing you've ever heard anyone say, where literally anything could happen. It could be one of those games where, like Liverpool last season, we hit them with something that they didn't see coming, and we contain them defensively, and so on. The 2 games that follow that, Burnley and Sunderland. So 2 of the new promoted teams, guys. Just very, very briefly, we'll take these games together. We're away at Burnley. We're at home to Sunderland, and lots of people have tipped for the 3 that come up to go straight back down again, as has become the trend. What about you, Richard, on this? Burnley, Sunderland, 2 new promoted teams, guaranteed 6 points?
Yeah, I think so. I just think the talent differential for us in that case, and just being, even with a few additions, I think we just continue to retain the core of our team. And so I think we're going to do well. I think we're going to stay focused and be effective in these matches, especially that home match against Sunderland. We're going to be back to the City Ground rocking, energy, all of that. And so I tend to believe it's a 6 points because honestly, I'm struggling to remember who's on Burnley that came in that new to give them any sort of boost. I mean, they've obviously got Joe Worrell. So he'll look forward to that return to the City Ground on Saturday the 27th. But outside of that, I'm struggling to remember exactly how much they've changed things for themselves. So yeah, it definitely feels like, in my mind, it feels like a much easier time for us in both those matches.
6 points for you, Danscape, or do you think that there might be?
I think I put 4. I think I put 4 in it. I think I put a draw at Burnley away. I suppose I was thinking that Burnley are, the only thing they're going to be good at is being difficult to beat. And I just thought maybe there's a chance there we end up with a draw on that. And then we play Sunderland at a good time. The earlier we play Sunderland, the better, because they'll be bedding in a lot of new players. But they are potentially, I think Sunderland will get better as the season goes on. So yeah, I think I went for 4 in the end in my cautious approach.
And Raf, how do you think these two new sides to the Premier League and the Sunderland have been out of it for quite a while, in a similar, not as long as us, but long enough for it to have affected them with parachute payments that don't exist. But Burnley been up and down. So who's got the best chance of picking up a point against Forest? Do you think it'll be 6 points for the Reds though?
Of the 3 teams, I think I'm bucking the trend. Everyone seems to point towards either Leeds or Sunderland as the ones that might beat the drop. I actually think it might be Burnley, just because the teams that stay up historically, that's because they've been very defensively solid and built from there and not tried to blow teams away with scoring free-flowing football. Burnley have got that. They've lost Trafford, though, but they have actually signed half decent. They've got Brozier and Ugachukwu in from Chelsea. Brozier, if he can stay fit, is actually all right, and he's a bit of a kind of Chris Wood up front, to be honest. And Ugachukwu was very decent in midfield, even though very, very young, as well as getting Bashir Humphreys in from totally cleaned out Chelsea by the looks of things. So they have got a few kind of interesting players in and bought quite well. They've bought loads of players, actually, about 10 of them. So it's about bedding in. For me, this is going to be a really important game for us to be able to see if we can break down a low block going away from home, and can we break down a low block? And that will inform me quite a lot of how our season's going to go, because now we've got a bit of a target on our back, whereas we haven't had in previous seasons. And so teams are, like we saw at the tail end of last season, setting up, giving us the ball and then sitting back. And it's how we can deal with that. And I don't think it'll be a bigger test than at Burnley with all that really resolute defence. Sunderland, again, is another massive test. It's the only fixture where I've gone for 3 points after we've played a European game. So this is the first fixture we've got where we go and play on the Thursday, and then this is the game. It says Saturday. It's not going to be Saturday. It will be Sunday. So I think that we've got enough, to Dan's point, that they'll still be in a bit of flux and they haven't got their cohesion yet, and we take advantage of that. And it's at home. So hopefully, there's a buzz if we have won our first European game, whatever it might be, might get us over the line. I've put this down as 6 points between the two, but I do think both of these games have a really good indicator in different ways for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to touch on the fact, as you've just done so, Raf, that Sunderland is the first game after our first Europa fixture on the Thursday. So that's going to be interesting. I'm glad that you pointed that out. So everyone keep your eyes on that. And of course, we are going to see lots of fixtures now move to Sunday as well. I'm thinking it's 6 points. Our points total from the group gives us 5 for the month. Most think it's 0 at Arsenal, an average of 2 points handed to us against Burnley, which is obviously not possible, and Sunderland, so Sunderland 3. So again, it is an average, and this will kind of give us an overarching points total for the season. So don't pay too close attention to the points per game. But 5 for the month of September is what we have forecast. All right. I wanted to give you another quick hot take from Steve Battlemuch. He says that he predicts that Igor Jesus is going to be replacing Chris Wood as the main striker by January. So he sees a changing of the guard happening. It is a bit of a hot take, Steve Battlemuch, especially now that we've seen Wood and Jesus playing in tandem with each other quite a bit. Is that going to work out? Will it mean that Nuno reverts to the sole striker? And will that man be, Igor Jesus? Steve Bassamuch seems to think it will be. In the comments, we've got more of you with us as well. Brucey says that Burnley lost their keeper. He's not sure who they've replaced him with, but it is a big loss for their defence because James Trafford is a good goalkeeper. And him going back to Man City might mean that he replaces Ederson. We're going to go into the month of October, where we got fixtures away at Newcastle, home to Chelsea, and away at Bournemouth. Conscious of time and that we're not going to go through every fixture, but Danscape, I'm going to pick out Chelsea at home as the one that we'll analyse in more detail. They were obviously the team that visited us on the last game of the season. They beat us 1-0, denied us a place in the Champions League, denied us a place in the Europa Conference, where we now find ourselves, of course, after everything we know about. They've recruited in the only way that Chelsea can, by buying the world and more. Are they going to be too strong for us?
I think they'll be too strong for us to beat in the middle of, obviously, some Europa fixtures and all of that and other games. I think it depends how they play, because they ended last season just purely as a solid defensive team. But, you know, the reason they qualified for the Champions League in the end is because they started keeping clean sheets and winning games 1-0, like we were doing at the start of last season. So it depends whether they sort of carry on in that way or whether they try and be a bit more expansive, in which might suit us. But I think if they play how they did at the end of last season, it's going to be tough for us to break them down. I know they've obviously lost one of their key central defenders to a long-term injury, which might make them struggle a little bit. But you know what Chelsea are like. They've already brought some players in, and they might bring more in if they think they need it. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough one. I think I've put it down as a draw, possibly a defeat. I honestly can't remember. But I do think it's going to be really tough. I think Chelsea will remain a solid team, very, very tough to beat next season.
I'm going to ask you, Raph, about Chelsea, and then I'll switch to Richard to maybe talk about Newcastle and Bournemouth, so we get a little bit of a flavour of those. So I'll come to you on Chelsea, Raph, because obviously you live around the corner from there, and so on. What do you think?
So doing holistically this whole month, this is a bleak month. This is a very bleak month. And actually, the only point I do see us getting is against Chelsea. Newcastle and Bournemouth are post-European games. They're basically our two bogey sides as well. Even with Bournemouth's whole defence unit being gutted, it's Bournemouth. We're going to them. It'll just go sideways. It always does. So I'm not expecting anything from Newcastle. I'm not expecting anything from Bournemouth. Chelsea are in the process of actually getting themselves to be a normal football club. If they get rid of their kind of Jacksons, their Nkunkus, and Sterling, and at that point, they bring in Garnacho probably as well. They've got basically a normal 25 with the exception of about 10 central defenders, which they're needing because quite a lot are injured. So I think they'll be a lot more settled, and I think they'll be super dangerous this year. I do think, though, that there's a bit of needle for the end of last season. Well, actually, the end of each season of whatever it is. But I do think that we'll make a really good showing. We'll have a bit more rest ahead of that game because we don't have Europe, and we'll get a point at home against Chelsea. But it will be a cracking game. I think that will be an absolutely cracking game.
Okay, Richard, give us your thoughts on the Newcastle Bournemouth matches in October. Anything you want to chuck in on Chelsea as well, of course. But again, I'm just conscious of time, so we'll sweep through these months as quickly as we can. But Newcastle picked up Elanga from us. They're having problems with Isak. Bournemouth have lost their defence entirely, pretty much. So how do you sum up October? Yeah,
Newcastle's a difficult one to gauge, I think, just based off of what you don't know what's going to happen in that striker position. I mean, Isak's a phenomenal player. It goes without saying, obvious statement, really. But we know we did beat them, and we looked good in the process of that first real major win in Nuno's tenure with Forest. So Can it be repeated? Potentially. We'll see how that goes, but I'm not totally confident on that. But I'll tell you what I do know. I hate Bournemouth more than anything on the planet, and I want to see them. I want to see us absolutely destroy them. I'm convinced this is the season. This is the season where we buck the trend and we actually do one over on them, because they've still got good players, but their defensive back line has been absolutely decimated. So that gives us an advantage in that sense, because I think Wood's savvy, and we'll see what Jesus becomes. But I'm very confident in Bournemouth going down for the first time in many years. Not going down as in relegated, going down to us in terms of a loss. So yeah. I see 3 points in that one. Okay.
I'm thinking a tough month as well. Bournemouth, I think we will win, because I think that again they're going to be transitioning too much, and this is where Iraola, if he can maintain Bournemouth being the side they were last year, then I think he's just reinforced his credentials as being a top manager, because I think they're in danger of slipping, as you said, Richard. Newcastle away, Chelsea at home. A point out of those two games is where I think we're going to be come the end of the month. And in fact, the total points that the team have assigned is an average of 2 points. That's 3 games, 2 points, a couple of draws in there to add to the points tally. Okay, then let's crack on and get ourselves into November. November, we see a home match against Man United, who we did the double over last season. Leeds, the new boys at home, follow that one on November the 8th. Again, these dates are subject to change for Europa League. Then we're away at Liverpool and at home at Brighton. So a tough run. I'll tell you what we'll do for this one. Danscape, just sum up the month for us. Again, conscious of time. So sum up the month where you're at with one or two of these fixtures. Who's going to cause us problems, and where can we pick up the best points?
Yeah, this month is one where I think if you come out this month with 6 points, you've done well, given the fixtures you've got and the teams you've got. Obviously, Man United is one of those sides that could go either way. My sneaking feeling is that they'll actually be pretty good this season. I feel like they'll be more settled in terms of the system they want to play. They've obviously brought in some very, very good players in Mbeumo and Cunha, who've kind of got a bit of a point to prove, and they don't have any European football as a distraction. So I think they'll be a lot tougher than they were last year to face. Obviously, Leeds at home, expecting to win that, and Brighton at home, I'm probably expecting to win that. So that's what I mean. I think if you come away with 6 points, that's good. Anything better than that, if you could scrape a draw in those other games, then even better for me. So yeah, tough month, but I think 3 points would be disappointing. I think we can get some points from somewhere else in that month.
What about you, Raf? Brighton at home, 7-0 last year. Can we repeat that, do you reckon?
Yeah, so again, I look at Leeds and Brighton. Those are 2 fixtures after European fixtures, with neither of them playing in Europe, so they'll be a lot fresher than us. I put those 2 down as draws just because I've downgraded every game other than that Sunderland game after we play a European fixture. Liverpool away, it would be a fairy tale if we can get in Slot's head again. I just don't really see that happening away from home. Man United home, I put this down as a win. I love it. Yep, they've got some great firepower up front, but our defence is absolutely awesome, and we're at home. So, and their defence is still rubbish. Like, they haven't done anything to fix their defence.
Keeper either. Yeah.
Well, I think Donnarumma might end up with them, because he's been isolated at PSG, and they brought in a new keeper and told him to get on his bike. So he might annoyingly end up at Man United, which would really gall me because they don't deserve him. But if he doesn't, then their defence is still absolutely shocking. Our defence can nullify their attack, and we can go and nick a goal, and I think we might get 3 points. So I got about 5 points, but I've done it the other way round from Danscape, basically.
Okay. Peter is in the comments. He says, hit the like and subscribe button, guys. If you could do as Peter asks, and he's a regular on that front for us, and we're very grateful for you, Peter, in suggesting that everyone does hit the like and subscribe. It would be great. And I want to say hello to a gentleman called Pusi Fila. He says, I'm a forest man in Bombay, India. And he says, this is a good channel. Well, listen, we're thrilled.
I'm not sure
that
that's
you're tuning
his real
in
name.
from India. Absolutely chuffed to bits with that. We're thrilled, because when we sit here and we're reaching out to different parts of the world, then I think it's a wonderful thing. So I'm generally grateful for anyone
That might be
listening, wherever you may
a Paul
be.
Morley pseudonym, maybe.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Crystal Palace fan trolling us.
It may well be, but I'd like to think.
No, I don't think so. I just think he's a Monsieur Filler. Let's just
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I've completely missed.
Of
that.
all people, you didn't catch that?
Well, it's a pussy pillar.
That's right. Excellent. Good for him.
Okay, Richard, you can sum up. Sum up the month of November while I call myself a taxi.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll be at the match, right, Greg, on November 1st, Manchester United. So that'll be good with my brother, who is a Manchester United fan, as many as probably have heard at this point. And then I get my brother-in-law, so it's the brothers/brother-in-law cups back-to-back weeks because my brother-in-law is a Leeds fan. So we were hoping to go to that match too, but that's probably not going to happen. But yeah, I tend to agree with what's been stated. I can't really add much to it other than getting 6 points, maybe even 7 would be phenomenal out of this stretch of matches. So
yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. I think Man United have strengthened well. They haven't done anything defensively yet, but I think they will. I think Donnarumma coming in is a huge signing for them because Onana has cost them points. They need to change their goalkeeper, and if they're bringing in the best goalkeeper in the world, then I think they're going to be extremely difficult to beat. So I don't know that we'll get anything in terms of a victory against them. I'd like to think Leeds at home is something we can take care of, and the other 2 fixtures, Brighton and Liverpool, again, I think I'd be happy with probably a point out of those at the moment. To be honest with you, we've given ourselves on average 7 points though throughout those 4 games. So 7 points gets added onto the total. Okay. Andrew Cove has given me his hot take for the season. He says that Nico is going to end the season with more assists than Callum Hudson-Odoi, and Nico is going to win Player of the Season. Well, we will be getting to our Player of the Season predictions a bit later on. Andrew's gone in there early with his. Let's move on to December. Again, we'll sum the month up as a whole, Richard, when we look at Wolves away, and this is a busy month. So Wolves away, Everton away, Spurs at home, Fulham away, Man City at home, Everton at home. So 6 fixtures, busy December as ever. This is where seasons can necessarily, I don't want to say won or lost, but we had a good December last year. It was when we went into January, we managed to continue a bit of good form. It was only after the first couple of games in January that we started to see a bit of a decline. Our first half of the season last year was exceptional, and December was a big part of that. How do you see December this year going for Forest?
Yeah, and 2 matches against Everton in 1 month. That's interesting. I would tend to say that those first 2 matches are always sort of a crapshoot, as it were, because Wolves we beat them, I think 3-0, right? Didn't we last year away, if I remember correctly? And then Everton, I think we beat away, but then struggled with them at home. So we kind of reversed the normal sort of course of events there. And Spurs, it's just hard to know what they're going to be at this stage. And I'm saying maybe, let's see, I'm thinking somewhere around 6 to 7, probably about 7 or 8 points would be probably my floor in this particular month. But without knowing enough about how some of these teams are going to play, Everton seem to get a boost. With Moyes coming in at the end or the second half of the season or close, just after the second half of the season or first half of the season, excuse me, and then kind of giving them a little bit of a jolt of energy. So I think they're going to be a decent side, and they're always difficult to play no matter what. And now the Fighting Grealishes. So in any case, I'm definitely coming away with this. Probably about 8 points is what I'm thinking is our floor here at worst.
Nick Hemphill was in the comments. He messages me a lot and he drops stuff in. I do like the way, Nick, that you talk with authority. And I can only imagine, Nick, that you must work in football or lots of people, because you do speak with a very straight level of authority when you say that Man United are not in talks with Donnarumma, and despite reports have not made any contact. So, Nick, I'm interested to know what contacts you have in football and what it is you do to tell us with such authority that these things are happening or are not happening, because you seem to know a lot. Danscape, what about you in December? Which of those games stands out to you as one that you think Forest can take 3 points?
None of them, based on my predictions. Unfortunately, I think this is the period that I think does define the season, like you said, and obviously defined last season. I just think this is where we will struggle to convert draws to wins. So I think I've only got us actually taking like 3 points out of these games. I just think in their own way they're all tough, and I just think, based on what we've seen so far and the fact that our recruitment's a bit late and all that, I sort of feel like the difference this season is that where we could win a game 1-0 last time, we might be struggling to get away from a 0-0 or a 1-1. So I don't think we're going to get, heavily beaten or anything. It's just, I think we'll have a run of draws where we would last season have seen wins. And that for me is probably this period. So yeah, I've only got us for like 3 points across this time. So a bit different to Richard's take. Unfortunately, this month, and my little pessimistic period, but hopefully I'm entirely wrong.
3 points from 18 is quite bleak, Dan.
Yeah, afraid so. They're just all tough in their own way, aren't they? Like Fulham away is hard. Like, got nothing from that. Wolves, I think, will be still a very good team this season under the manager and the system. Everton away is going to be horrible. Spurs, we don't know. Obviously, Man City is always tough, and again, Everton's just always tough. I think I just think it's going to be draws galore.
Well, I hope you're wrong. Raf, can you be a bit more hopeful with the points tally for December?
Yeah. And by the way, it's really good to have Nick on. Nick and I chat a lot. And just to clarify, I don't think I said that they were getting him, but they want him, like they want Belelba as well. But that is a lot of money to spend. They've already spent a lot. It just worries me if he does end up there. I think I've got this down as a bookend of happiness with misery in between, basically. So I think Wolves, we can go away and win at Wolves. And I think Everton at home, I think we can actually beat Everton, bringing them to our patch. This is one stretch where we only have one European game, and that's the one just before Spurs. But Spurs will be quite stretched with their Champions League as well. So that nullifies that a bit. And then I've just gone for a smattering of draws. Everton away, draw. Spurs at home, draw. Fulham away, draw. And that will actually be quite dreamy if we can get a point away at Fulham, because I go to that fixture every single year and I just come away depressed every single year, pretty much. And Man City is just Man City. Again, give it, for Premier Elliott out there, every game is winnable. Just some games are more winnable than others. And I would just say that one is a low percentage winnable chance of a game. So for me, I think I had 9 points out of this, and I think I was probably more optimistic than our general group, I would say.
So I'm looking at the fixtures, and there's only one Europa fixture, I think, which is Spurs game. Yep. So it's going to be pivotal, as I've said and we've all said. I can't imagine that Forest are going to capitulate that much and only pick up 3 points. I just think that's far too low. Wolves away, for me, as a win. Everton away, at least a point. Spurs at home, guaranteed win. Fulham away, a point. I think we're good for a point at Fulham if we can keep our heads a little bit. It hasn't been a great place to go. Man City at home, let's put it down as a defeat, although we beat them last season. Everton at home, 3 points. I mean, I don't know what I've just done there in terms of tally, but that's at least sort of 10, 11, 12 points potentially.
I think you did 13 points.
I just think 3 is too low. And again, this is interesting because we all watch the same team. We all know the players. Dan's at 3 points for December. I'm at like 13 points, which is why we've taken the average of everybody in our WhatsApp group to give us a total that looks like this, which is 8 points, which again feels really low. So the average points that the Talking Reds team have assigned for the month of December is just 8 points out of 18. Now, when it comes to December, I say just 8 points. I might be crying out for 7 points or even 6 points at that time. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I want to say hello to Daniel Hall. He says he's in Sydney, Australia, but Nottingham born and bred. Thanks for tuning in, Daniel. I appreciate and we appreciate you watching. Let's fly into the new year then, guys. 5 fixtures: Villa away, West Ham away, Arsenal at home, Brentford away, Palace at home. Danscape, have you got a better points total for me for January?
I've got 7. I'm a bit more optimistic this time. I think it's still a tough period. I still think you've got AFCON playing a role, and I think you've obviously lost a bit of momentum. If what I said about December is correct, you've lost a bit of momentum to build back. But there's a couple of obviously good games in there. I think West Ham will struggle as a team, so I think we can get something from them as a definite. I think we'll probably do the same against Brentford away again. I'm hoping that we'll beat Brentford in both games this season. Arsenal tough, but we could get a point. And I can't remember what I put for Palace. I think I've said another draw with Palace because that's just what we do against Palace, isn't it? So I think there's at least 7 points in there, and you might be able to convince me there's 9 if we can have a good result against probably Villa away. I guess is the extra one for some bonus points.
Richard Danscape has upped his game a little bit with 7 points, which I think on offer isn't too bad. Have you got anything better on 7?
Yeah, I'm tending to lean towards around 9 to 10 points in this particular stretch. It'll be interesting to see. This is one of those months where, we obviously have more away games than we do home games. I'm really curious to see just in general our away form this season, because that seemed to be a game changer last season from where we were prior to that. Because I think we doubled our number of away wins last season from the previous 2 seasons combined. So this will really test that theory of how well we're going to manage the away, because these are some challenging teams. As Dan said, I mean, there's no gimmies in this league, and there's going to be plenty of matches where it feels like we just struggle to beat teams of that ilk. Crystal Palace being at the end of the fixture list in this month, and that's definitely one of those that we just targeted in the second match of the season. But yeah, I tend to believe about 9 to 10 out of this stretch. It looks like favorable. We'll be hitting the ground running. We'll have gotten cohesion clearly developed by this point. And so I believe we'll have a little bit more bite in what we do by this point in the season and just be a more effective team comprehensively, a more well-rounded team, I'm hoping. So that gives us a little bit of an advantage, I think, in matches like Brentford, Crystal Palace, and so on and so forth.
Back end of January, we go back into the Europa League fixtures. So Brentford and Palace games will follow match days 7 and 8 in the Europa, Raf. So Brentford away, again, we're kind of going back into the next round of fixtures now.
So I'm December Dan. It's January Raf gloom. I have 2 points out of all of this, out of 5 fixtures. And there's a couple of reasons. We're in the league. It's going to be a whole lot of things that come together. The first, basically, Villa, West Ham, Arsenal are all covered by AFCON, right? So what are the state of our fullbacks? We're going to be another midfielder down. We don't know what's coming in, so it's very difficult to judge, but it's not looking good. Brentford and Palace are covered by European slots, like Greg has just said. So every game is affected somehow, either by AFCON or coming off of a Thursday game. And then you look at who they are and what the fixtures are. I think I got a draw away at West Ham and a draw at home against Palace. Brentford away, I know I just don't vibe against Brentford whatsoever. I really don't like them, and it gives me no pleasure to say it whatsoever. But I just don't see it, especially if we're lacking that unbelievable pace that we had in away fixtures to be able to get in behind teams. I don't know how it's going to go. Arsenal at home, not really vibing that at all. And Villa this season, I mean, Villa are just Villa. They're just really, really good. And so and that's away. So I don't really see anything. So for me, draw at West Ham, draw at Palace, absolutely nil point everywhere else, unfortunately for me.
Okay. I'm thinking 9 points. I hear what you're saying about AFCON. I do think that we are going to learn the lessons of AFCONs in the past. Shimikas from Liverpool is close by all accounts. Whether that comes to fruition, whether it's him or another, we know that the fullback area is something we need to do some work in to make sure that we have cover for injury and AFCON with Ola going off to that competition. Brentford away, I've got them going down, guys. I mean, I know that we're going to look at this later, but I just think Brentford are doomed. Palace at home, I don't think they ever get much at the City ground, but I've got a win for that as well. So points total for the month of January, we as a group on average have 8 points assigned to go into the total. Right, let's get into February. So we're properly into the second round of fixtures now, with Leeds, Wolves, Liverpool, Brighton to look forward to. 2 away, 2 home. Come back to you, Richard, on this one. The league would have well and truly taken shape, clearly, by this point. We knew way in advance of Christmas, really, with how our first half of the season had gone in the season we just completed, that we didn't have to worry about being in a relegation battle. We were only looking up. We were only thinking, what could it really turn out to be? Could it be conference? Could we squeeze into Europe for the first time? And then the dream was more than that, it seems. Come February this time round, where are we going to be mentally? Would have been playing in the Europa League. Would have had a lot more games on our shoulders. Leeds, Wolves, Liverpool and Brighton. Again, this is where your crystal ball's got to be really in full effect at this point. What do you hope for Forest at this point? I mean, I know we're going to do the table at the end and have a look at it, but what do you hope? February, not long to go. Are you hoping that we, mid-table solidity by this point?
Yeah, I would think so. And I just think just the overall squad having a really nice, firm and well-defined rotation of players. I mean, given how many European games we played at this point, given how much we played in the Premier League at this point, to try to manage that sort of fixture, given what you said about AFCON coming in January, that we are really going to put ourselves in a position for this stretch run for these last few months of the season where we started to see things, I think it was March, if I remember correctly, where things sort of got a little off kilter and we looked a little bit more vulnerable. I just feel like we're going to be in a lot different place. We've learned our lesson, hopefully, last season. It's great to have a thin squad, but clearly we can't do that when Europe's involved. But it's just the way that we set that up, the way that we have those personnel groupings and those things set up for how we, depending on the opposition. So I'm feeling confident that Nuno's going to have them in a position to really hit the stretch run of last 3 months of the season with a lot more energy and a lot more ability to manage any form of pressure that we might get to this stage. But yeah, it sounds about right from a mid-table standpoint. And I actually think on this group, maybe I'm being, just too optimistic in this sense, but it feels like we could get 3 consecutive wins out of this, potentially at the beginning of this. The Liverpool being that shocker. We always have those 1 or 2 shockers in a season, right? Where we don't expect to win those matches. Maybe we expect to draw a match like Liverpool at home, but we end up taking that match. Because at this stage, you don't know who's got injuries. You don't know what they're doing personnel-wise. So I think we can beat Leeds away. I think we can definitely beat Wolves at home, and seeing a potential shock win against Liverpool at home. And then, the proverbial Brighton draw, because they are one of those teams as well that we can be challenged by, other than the last year's 7-0 win, which was a bit of an aberration, as we know. So I'm thinking, we're talking 10 points. I think I'm going 10 for this little group of matches. Yeah.
10 from 4 is a big number. Raf, just briefly give us your idea about February.
Yeah, same logic as Rich, just not as optimistic. So I think the Leeds away, that is a match that we should be winning. And the reason why we were so high last season is we took care of fixtures like that. Against the bottom half, we just took care of those fixtures. Same then applies to Wolves. At home, we should be beating them. Brighton away, I actually fancy us to give Brighton, from the structure of what we're trying to put together and evolve, be a bit better. I know we smashed Brighton for 7. That was just a weird formation they did. I reckon we get a point at that Brighton game, so that gives us 7 points. Liverpool at home, it'd be great if we did something. I'm just not expecting to do anything, so I tap out at 7 points.
Okay, and Dan, I'm going to ask you anything different for us on February?
No, I think I'm at 7 points as well. Pretty much the same as Raf. The only thing that's up in the air is probably that Leeds will have changed manager by this point, so they might be in the midst of a new manager bounce, because I just can't see Daniel Farke lasting any longer than he should going up to sort of January. So, but I've got that down as a win. I got Wolves down as a win, and I got a point from Brighton.
Okay. My opinion is that I'll be happy if we can pick up 6 points in these games, to be honest with you. Leeds and Wolves, something against Brighton away would be nice, but I'm not holding my breath. The Talking Reds team have averaged at 6 points for the month is what we will achieve. Just going to interrupt myself to say that Crystal Palace have released a statement on their website. It talks about how sporting merit, in their opinion, has been rendered meaningless and so on. It feels like they are still as bitter as anything. They talk about winning the FA Cup against Man City, it being a momentous day, and they've earned the right to play Europa League football. They're saying they've been denied that opportunity. They talk about it appears that certain clubs, organisations and individuals have a unique privilege and power. I'm not going to read the whole statement. All of you can go and read it for yourselves. It's there in black and white. They were obviously going to come out with something. They talk about UEFA's decision having wider implications for the governance of the sport. They talk about a combination of poorly conceived regulations and their unequal application, meaning that the Palace fans will be deprived of the chance to watch their team compete in the Europa League for the first time in their history. They end by saying that they will compete in the Conference League with the same determination and will to win that characterises their club. They are continuing to take legal advice. So look, the statement is there. Don't all rush off and read it yet. We've got about 15 minutes to go with this, with our episode. It's interesting that Forest have been quite silent, and I'm glad about that. Whether they choose to come out with something or not, I don't know. My preference would be that they say absolutely nothing. We have been elevated into the Europa League purely as a result of Crystal Palace failure to get their house in order. It has nothing to do with Nottingham Forest. We are just the beneficiaries because we are the next in line behind them, and that's just the way it goes. So look, there you go. You can go and read that for yourselves, guys. Okay, we are going into the month of March, and I'm going to now switch it up. I'm only going to come to Raf now on March. I'm then going to go to Dan on April, and then I'm going to go to Richard on May. So 3 months left of the season. Raf, coming to you only on this one. So sum up March for us and what you think.
Super positive, Raf, even though it's Fulham. So I am going to go with 6 points. I don't see us getting anything from Man City away, although that would be dreamland if we get a point or even a win. That would be cool. Possible, all possible. Just don't see it happening. Win. Fulham, bring them to ours, get them out of London, up here, and smash them. And then Spurs away. That's just one of these types of results that I've got. It doesn't matter how Spurs are doing. That for me feels like the fixture where we go and just get 3 points this season.
Okay, so March, the team have 4. I had 4 in my head as well, if I'm honest with you. So if we can pick up 4 points out of 3 in March, that seems quite reasonable. Let's move on straight away then, Danscape. You're going to tell us what your thoughts are on April, where we play Villa at home, Burnley at home, and Sunderland away.
I think it's an undefeated month. I think we pick up a point against Villa and we win the other 2. In short, I just think we should be beating Burnley at home by that point. I think they probably lost a bit of confidence and motivation. I think they will struggle over the whole course of the season. And then I think, Sunderland will be a better team. I just think at this stage we'll be fighting for something. We'll be chasing something down, to try and get into that top half. So I think we'll be fully kind of locked in to that game, and I think we can find a way to beat them. Obviously, Villa are just a very tough team, so I just kind of thought, a point at home against them is fine. So yeah, undefeated, 7 points.
7 points. I'll take 7 points. But Villa, Burnley, and Sunderland, I think 7 points should be a bare minimum. I'd love 9. The Talking Reds team have averaged 6. So again, it all goes towards the end tally, and we're into the final month of the season with my podcast partner, Richard Spray, to take us through to the final game. We play Chelsea away, Newcastle at home, Man United away, and we finish at the City Ground against your favourite team, Bournemouth. How's the month of May going to treat Forest, Richard Spray?
I'm going to say 6 points out of this stretch run because, to Dan's point, I mean, going away at Chelsea, we obviously that was the Matt Sells match, right? That was the one where he really, flipped a switch and just became the keeper we know him to be now. But I think they're going to be firing on all cylinders at that stage. Newcastle, who knows? But it's at home, so I tend to believe we can get a win out of that. I think we're going to be motivated not to collapse like we did last season. Towards the end of the season, again, collapse is probably a very negative connotation, clearly. But I think it's just we're going to be doing a better job of how we set the team up for success in the latter parts of the season. So, like I mentioned before, Manchester United, I tend to. Much to my brother's delight, I tend to believe as well they're going to be a good team. They've just the talent they brought in are not only very, very capable and shown incredible ability, but they're also ones that tend to be pretty consistent, especially in Buemo. So and who knows what Sesko will be at that point because he'll have been fully integrated at this stage into the Premier League. So I think that's going to be a difficult match to play. We may be able to stave them off enough to lose maybe a 0. Lose by one goal. But this is going to be the way that we go out on top. We're going to smash the hell out of Bournemouth at home, 4-0. I'm calling it now, and just put them in the grave they belong in. And also at the same time do the double over them. We're going to completely reverse the trend this season. Instead of not being able to beat them, we do the double. And I've committed to Chris Aylmer that I'm going to continue to preach that until I'm obviously potentially wrong. And I hope I'm not, because I think it would be absolutely glorious to go out to beating Bournemouth and just smashing them to close the season out with that momentum that we need going into the off season.
Save this moment, guys. Richard Spray has called it 4-0. We're going to cut it up. We're going to replay it. It's all going to happen. Rich, what are you smoking? Bournemouth go down. Okay, right. So what does that do for us at the end of the season? We've assigned ourselves 5 points in May. I think that's about right. Again, I'm just chipping in quickly with my thoughts. I think Man United are going to be the ones that bounce back better this season than Spurs. I think they've recruited smartly, and I think they will be better. I'm not saying they're going to be top 5 or top 6, but I think they're going to bounce back better. But what does that do in terms of a points total? If you haven't been keeping tally, it gives us 58 points. The Talking Reds team are now predicting, we are forecasting 58 points for Nottingham Forest in this forthcoming Premier League season. On average, that would put you into either 8th or 9th place in the Premier League table. If you take the average placing for that kind of points tally over the last 5 seasons, again, we would finish in 8th or 9th. If we throw that into the mix with the Europa competition, Danscape, would you take 8th or 9th right now?
Yeah, I mean, based on my predictions, I'm predicting more like 11th. So I would definitely take it. And, obviously trying to get to those knockout stages of Europa. I don't think you can go into any competition expecting to win it. Even if we're in the conference, I wouldn't be doing that because it's cup football. But I think alongside a decent Europa run, more than happy with that.
Raf, what about you? Are you satisfied with 8th or 9th?
Massively. I like Danscape. So I thought we'd get about 49 points, which puts us about 11th or 12th. If we do get where you're saying 58 points, that puts us touching distance of Europe while having a European campaign, which then bodes well. If we then don't have Europe the next season, we should then be able to kick on and get Europe again for having that rest and to make up another 2 wins from somewhere in a season. So I think if we do that, we actually genuinely have turned ourselves into a proper team that is challenging for European competition every single season, and I would be elated.
Okay, and Richard Spray, back to you. An 8th place finish, 58 points, touching Europe potentially. What do you think about that?
I'll take it all day long, but I think at the same time, it's way up. It's still better than what I expected. I think I, had something higher than most, but I think in realistic terms, it would be a really successful season, as Raf just pointed out, for all those same reasons. And, to come away from a completely unexpected season where there's going to be a lot of pressure on the club to generate that kind of success again, to be in that relative range, hopefully with maybe a cup win to kind of solidify this season to be a real, a cumulative success beyond just where we finished in the Premier League would be fantastic. So yeah, I can't be anything but overjoyed by being there again, because I think then once we've gotten some of these newer players another year in the Premier League next season, we're really trending in the right direction to put ourselves into a sustainability phase of where we are in the Premier League, just like Raf referenced.
Well, last year we predicted ourselves, I think it was 48 points to finish 12th. 47. This year we predicted 58 points to finish 8th or 9th. So look, if the trend is there, we'll finish significantly higher than we predicted, and it looks like we're going to win the league. But that could be wishful thinking. I think, look, that's about right for where I think we want to be. An established Premier League team that can handle a European competition alongside it. And again, we're not predicting anything in this particular episode about where we might go in Europe, how deep we might go. That's going to be a whole nother episode. I'm hoping that we can go deep into the League Cup or the FA Cup. We did rather well last season as well. Crystal Palace, who we've mentioned more than once on this podcast. I mean,
obviously we're devastated.
Yeah, they're devastated. So you can go and read their statement, but they've just won the FA Cup. Their league position has regularly been around sort of the 12th, 13th mark. And so they're going into the Europa Conference League as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they fare. I guess I've got too much of an eye on Palace now compared to how I normally would, because obviously I kind of feel in my head there is this rivalry that's been developed with them. But I'll be satisfied with that kind of points tally, that kind of place. The consensus in our group, if we look at the team or the table, I beg your pardon, as a whole. So we asked the Talking Reds team to give their top 4 and their bottom 3. The consensus, the average is that it would be Liverpool that finishes champions. It will be Man City in second place, Arsenal third, Chelsea fourth, and the relegation consensus is Brentford, Sunderland, and Burnley to go down. So that's what we could keep on the screen for a minute. And I'm conscious that Danscape's got a meeting to get to. But Dan, I promise I've got my eye on that. We've got a couple more bits to get through. I'm going to try and nick 5 more minutes of your time. But just very, very quickly, Danscape, on that screen, is there anything you're particularly unhappy about in terms of the top 4 and the bottom 3? Have we missed a glaring team that should be in that top 4 or in that bottom 3?
No, I think the teams are right, but I think it's too predictable to just say that because Liverpool won it last year, they'll win it again. I think they had a very easy way of winning it last year, if that makes sense. It's never easy and all those caveats that you have to throw in. But I think Man City probably win it. I think Arsenal come second. I actually think Liverpool might end up third. I think it's just going to be a much tougher, competition for that title this time around. At the bottom 3... Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. Go on.
The bottom 3, I don't see Brentford struggling that much. I think their defence will still be solid. I think they'll be hard to beat, and I think that's the key if you want to stay up. So I would still say it's the promoted 3 that go down, unfortunately. I still think the gap's too big.
Well, I've got Liverpool as champions. I think their recruitment's been too good, and they will get Isak, and I think they are going to be too good based on that. I've got Chelsea in second. I think Chelsea begrudgingly are back, and I think that they've shown that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with, and they might end up being the surprise package that actually pushed Liverpool the closest. I've got Arsenal in third. I've got Man City in fourth. I think Man City are still in transition. I know they've recruited, but I just still think they're going through a transition. Again, it's just my hunch. I've got Brentford going down with West Ham and Burnley. I think Sunderland, Leeds survive. Raf, we're up against the clock. Any thoughts on these teams? Is there anyone missing you want to see in there?
No, I think it's the 3 up, 3 down. I just think the gap's too large. As much as I'd love to see Brentford go down, I just don't think it's going to happen. And then it's just about the order. I think those 4 are the 4, and then we just flip around what the order of the 4 is. I think that's generally the consensus that's there. I 100% agree with you. Chelsea will be higher than 4th.
Yeah. Richard Spray, anything to add?
No, I can't disagree with any of that. I tend to be probably higher on Man City right now. I just think that, as you pointed out, there is a transition, but I think that transition happened last season. I think there's going to be, they've brought in some very, very good players this season. I just can't imagine Holland having that many stretch runs of not scoring goals. So I think they're going to be pretty much elite this season, to your point, depending on what happens with Isak. I mean, Ekitike is a really good player as well, but he's going to have to get accustomed to the Premier League. But if they get Isak, it's going to be frightening. So, I tend to believe where we're at, maybe you flip 1 and 2. You could flip 2 and 3, depending on how a few fixtures go. But to your point, Raph, I think Chelsea's going to be a bit of a much more difficult team and much more composed and consistent team throughout the season, probably this season than they've been in seasons past. So, but the bottom 3, I think it's a little bit hopeful to say Brentford's going down. I think we said the same last year that they might be a surprise team to go down, but they definitely lost some firepower. So we'll see what happens.
Firepower, new
for
manager,
sure.
Norgard, big player for them as well. Last year we went and did the whole table for you, which we're not going to do now. But I am going to ask the panel this. You can only answer with one team. Let's suggest we get a 5th place extra European Cup spot, Champions League spot. Which team gets Champions League by finishing 5th, Raf?
Villa.
Danscape.
Man United.
Oh, actually,
Right.
yeah, it's a good shout. That is actually a good
You
shout.
picked them, I think, 3rd last season, if I remember
I did,
correctly.
It's weird, isn't it?
Come on, Rich.
Man, I'm going to say something really controversial, but also joyful in my heart, because I think my points total put us there anyway. I'm going to say Forest get back there. It's going to be
even larger shout.
Yes. I'm going to say Forest get 5th. I'm with you, Rich. The Talking Reds team are standing shoulder to shoulder. How did we do last season? So last year we had some player predictions.
Oh my word!
Player of the season. Dan said Danilo. Raf said Sangare. And Richard said Callum Hudson-Odoi. And I said Nikola Milenkovic. So
I think you win out of that.
Yeah,
well done.
Top scorer. Dan said Wood. I said Wood. Raf said Taiwo. And Richard said Taiwo. So Dan and I get a pat on the back for Chris Wood. And surprise of the season, Dan said Nuno, which I think deserves a pat on the back. I said Dominguez, and I think I deserve a bit of a pat on the back because everyone said he was going to be out of the club and not playing as much. And he was a really crucial player for us.
Started 23 times.
Raf said Anderson, massive pat on the back because I didn't know what we were getting with Anderson, and I thought he was incredible. And Richard Spray.
They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
exactly right.
Says that Nico leaves in January. I mean, come on.
Well, he's being looked at. He was being looked at by Serie A teams, and so I was worried he was going to be gone.
Because he is that good.
We're glad that
He is that good. He's even better now.
Incorrect. Okay, right. We're going to finish off by literally, we've got about a minute left. Richard Spray, I want your player of the season prediction now, please.
Nico Williams.
You're keeping an eye on this, Richard, as well, remember, for next year. Danscape, yes. I want your player of the season prediction now, please.
Is this actual player of the season, as in they are the best, or the fans' choice?
Who's going to be your Forest? Who's going to win the Forest Player of the Season award?
That's a different question for me, based on last season. But I would say Elliot Anderson is my player of the season.
Okay, Rafik.
The safe answer, I think, is Elliot Anderson. I think Rich may be very surprised if I said it might be Morgan Gibbs-White. But that's the safe answer is Anderson because he'll be consistent and he'll be amazing. Morgan Gibbs-White's 50-50. Does he step up to the plate and get his England place, or does the pressure too much for him and he doesn't? And he's the only other one. But no, Anderson. And I'm going to stick with Anderson last season, Anderson again this season.
Well, I was going to say Anderson as well because I think that he's going to be incredible. But I'm not going to go. I'm going to go different. I'm going to say Chris Wood because when I was a guest on there with Richard, we were asked for our hot take, and my hot take was that Chris Wood is going to score more goals in the forthcoming season than what he did in last season. And I think if that is the case, then I think he bloody well deserves to be player of the season.
100%.
It's my hot take that Chris Wood is going to score more goals this season than he did last season in the Premier League. Okay, remember he had to spell out injured. That's my hot take. So I'm saying Chris Wood. Richard Spray, who's going to be a top scorer?
Chris Wood. Not going to screw around this year.
Danscape.
Yeah, Chris Wood. I think he'll get over 20 in all competitions, something like 18 in the Prem, something like that.
Anything different, Raf?
And I think he'll get a hat-trick in a European game as well, was my
Yeah, I love that. Raf?
Nice.
In the Prem, I do think it'll be Wood, but I think it'll only be 12 goals because I think they're going to be spread across the team a lot more, and he won't be starting every single Premier League game.
Okay. I'll say Chris Wood again. If I'm going to choose something different after what I just said, then we're going to have the seasons and seasons. So Chris Wood. And then finally, Richard Spray. Biggest surprise of the season.
I'm going to say that we have two players that get 10 assists each. And I think one of those is Elliot Anderson, and I think the other one is Nico Williams. I just think he's going to be a lot more forward and advancing in his role this season. He can get back and can defend. I have no fear about that. The guy's got an unbelievable work rate and engine to do that. I know it's a lot of tax on the body and him personally, and he put a lot of minutes in last season. But I think we're going to get 10 assists out of each of those guys to overcome the loss of Elanga and add a little bit of extra to get Chris Wood across that line for the number of goals we want.
Okay. Danscape.
Can I give you my biggest surprise and my red hot take, and then I exit the room?
Yeah.
So my biggest surprise, I think, will be Jair Cunha. I think he'll prove himself as the best of the two players from Botafogo. I think he'll become that first choice sort of backup centre-back that comes in and plays the back three, or potentially, if Milenkovic picks up an injury, comes in and plays that role. So that's my biggest surprise one. My red hot take is that I've got this feeling this is Nuno's last season as Forest manager, and I've got this feeling that Marco Silva is our manager next season. I don't quite know why, as in whether it's just because Nuno has done a bad job. I just think this sort of end of the road kind of scenario where we do okay but maybe don't hit the heights, and Marco Silva becomes available, and there's all that sort of politics. So that's my red hot take on the end, I suppose, of this season, and I shall mic drop and leave.
Dan, you've got to go. Thank you so much, Dan. You're a superstar. We're going to finish anyway.
See you later.
Dan, you're a star. And Raf, your surprise of the season?
I fully agree with Dan's Jair Cunha comment. I do think that we'll all be surprised by him. Is Callum having an absolutely awesome season surprise? Is that like a...
No, because you're about to jump on my surprise of the season by mentioning him. So we're on the same page, buddy. You go ahead, though.
I'll give you Callum because I think he's going to have his best season in a Forest shirt. It's between the wingers. I think Ndoye is going to really surprise some people and smash in some goals. I really think that it's between then. Given that Dan's taken Jair Cunha, you want Callum, I'll take Ndoye, but I agree with both of you. Those are the three to watch for me, and I think that they'll be really, really key. My hot take is that Elliot Anderson will be in the top 5 midfielders in FPL.
Yeah, I love that. Okay.
Points-wise by the end of the season.
We can expand on that on Friday. Sorry. My biggest surprise this season, I've just mentioned it. I think Callum's going to have his best season. I think we're going to see more than just cutting in from the right and from the left and scoring with the right from him. I think we're going to see more of a dynamic Callum. I think we're going to see 10 plus goals from Callum this season. So he's my surprise of the season. I hope that we wouldn't get to an hour and a half. Hour and 23. Thank you so much for everybody for sticking with us. It is a slog. Please do hit like and subscribe. Follow us on all the social media channels. Tell your friends. Spread the news. If you're in Bombay and your name is Smelly, whatever you are, then thanks very much for tuning in. You caught me on that one, and I think it's kind of affected me for the rest of this podcast that I get caught out like the guy in the bar in The Simpsons and Bart Simpson phoning up and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I got caught out on that one. But Raf, you're a superstar. Richard, last word to you. I want your hot take for the season.
My red hot take is that Igor Jesus, I think I did this on Red Side of Trent, is going to score more goals than Ekitike. Specifically in all competitions, basically. So I think he's going to score more goals. I think he's going to prove to be a better striker than Ekitike.
Well, Ekitike in the Charity Shield final got off to an absolute flyer, but that there's still a long way to go. Thank you very much indeed to all of our Talking Reds contributors who helped with this episode. I will put out a tweet and name everybody in that, but without them, we wouldn't have been able to do this. Thank you so much for everyone watching along. Danscape, Raf the Random Pundit, my podcast partner in Oklahoma. The season kicks off on Sunday, but we'll be back on Friday to do a full preview of Brentford. There's going to be more signings. The trigger has now been pulled. We are Europa League Nottingham Forest. Here we come.
Come join Greg and Rich.